Testing. Hello, testing audio. Test. Testing. Testing. Okay. Sorry, guys. I think I finally have the audio working again. All right. So today, welcome to the stream, all of nobody. I'm sorry I missed last week. Running a little late this week due to some technical problems. I was out of town for some family stuff I had to take care of, but now I'm back. So on today's stream, we're going to do quick texture mapping and UV mapping of this knife that was actually modeled in Blender by Eric. Eric from here at the studio, Eric Max Kaplan. So I just had to do a couple, make sure that the UVs are working the way we need, and make sure the edge loops are good and everything like that. So I've already gone through and fixed some stuff, but we'll go through and do the rest. Now I just have to make sure that this knife can be textured. And I was thinking of doing it in 3D coat. I could do it in Mudbox, but it doesn't really matter. We'll figure it out one way or the other. Hey Pramod, hey Pachelevic, welcome to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry I missed you guys last week. I was out of town and the internet was terrible where I was staying because my parents' house is in the forest and there is no internet. Today, there's only sound in the right ear? Okay, thanks. Just give me a second. Had a lot of problems with my sound card. So I've had to, let me see if I can set this up. I've had to, I'm running sound through a different system, a different device. So I will see if I can mix this over properly. Sorry guys, give me a second. I can see it in the mixer. I just don't know how to modify. Okay, let's see. US 2020 mic is, we will make it down mix to mono. Okay guys, let me know if that's working. That should be better, I'm assuming. All right. Should be fixed. Okay, so today I was hoping to do a look back on Nat Geo. We're going to have to do that next week. I'm not prepared today because I just got back from town last week, on Tuesday. So this is my first day back in the studio, and we have some emergency last-minute things we need to take care of. And we have to replace this knife that is actually, hey, here I am. We have to replace this knife and make it a different kind of knife. We originally in the film we have this knife that the character is using to cut the snow, and that no longer is the appropriate knife because it was shaped wrong and it was the wrong length. So now we have a different knife that we have to use. So that's what we're going to do. So Eric, like I said, modeled this in Blender, and I'm just going back in, and I had to do just some retopology. This was the original mesh that I got from him, which is really nice, but it's really high resolution. It's a bit too high to work with, and the shot's very short, and I think this is a little bit too dense. But I got him to send me the dense version anyway, so I retopologized it using the quad draw tool. I don't know if you guys know or care about the quad draw tool, but essentially I just went through the object and made it live like this, and then I just drew quads on it like this, and just, stretched them out and slowly rebuilt the knife. I focused on really large shapes first, and then went down to smaller and smaller shapes. And because it's live, as you add divisions to it, it becomes more and more conformed to the actual surface. So it's a pretty quick way to rebuild something for any of you who may be interested in doing those kinds of things. Something you do with like ZBrush meshes and things like that. So now the next thing I have to do is just finish UV mapping it. So a couple of things I've learned from experience with UV mapping is you want to make sure you freeze transform everything. I've already done this one here. Let's just turn this on. Sorry guys, I know this is kind of possibly going to be boring and not really apply to any of your projects. I just have to get this done today. So unfortunately, this is what we're doing. Anyways, so the thing you want to do before you start UV mapping stuff is to freeze the transforms. If you don't, sometimes the scale of objects will be weird depending on how you built your object, and Maya will remember certain scalings and won't adjust accordingly. So now we're going to do this shape here, and this one's going to be a little tricky. I'm using the bonus tools for 2018. And the main one I'm using here is if we go down to UV, where is it? UV editing, and it's the auto unwrap UVs tool. So I essentially use that, and I go enter tool and close. And now I'm just going to define my edge loops. I have that set to a button right up here. But the first one I'm going to do is this one. And I'll just say add borders. I probably should have isolated the object so it was easier to, here we go, select everything. I'm going to add a border here, bonk. And I'll put this as a border. There we go. This will just make it easier to split it up. I don't want to use that as a border. That's too intense. But I've got some of these that you see that are already kind of thick. It's because I actually used the crease edge tool to make the shape a little more interesting. So it's hard for me to see actually what I have borders on at the moment. They should be turning red, but they're not for some reason. I did one here and here. That's probably good for now. That'll at least cut those main ones off. And I'll probably run one here and here. Actually, let's just see where this one ended up. They're here and here. So I'll put one here and here. I'm just making it so that the edges can unfold a little bit so that we kind of eliminate some of the distortion that will be happening. We'll do here and here. Okay, and then this one, actually we don't want to do there and there. We want to do, let's take those two away. We don't need either of those now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so I think we're good. So we're going to go continue. There we go. It's kind of weird, but it's essentially there. Now let's have a look. It will go done. That's fine. I'm going to just polish this up in a second. Put on 6 so we can see that the texture, the tiling is okay, like that we're not getting crazy stretching or anything. So if you don't freeze transform, you'll sometimes see that these tiles get really big, or the actual checker pattern is different from one part all the way to the other. It should be even all the way across the surface in general, and that means you've had a successful unwrap. If it's not, that means something went wrong, obviously. So the only place that'll probably get weird is inside of here, which doesn't matter too much because we're not even going to see it, but we can eliminate a certain amount of stretching. But I think there's a way. I'm just going to see if I can find the view that shows the stretching. I think that's under here if we go to UV Toolkit. I think we can show, no, we can't. I'm going to get this up, and I'm going to get cut and sew up. And there's a way here to show the stretching. I think this is it here. So with the red areas is where there's a lot of stretching. So that means there's a lot of distortion of the actual UV. And blue is medium, or sort of less so. So we've got reds in these very curved surfaces because technically if we didn't want them to stretch at all, we should have seams along them. I don't really care about stretching in this because it's not going to be closely scrutinized. And it's also, we're just going to paint right on top of it. So most 3D painting programs will take care of any distortion that you have because you're actually going to be just painting on the surface. If you were going to be painting right on the UV specifically itself, you might see some stretching, but it's not that bad. A couple of things we could do to fix it, I think. Let me just double check where these edge loops are. So I'm just going to grab these edges here and have a look. So a couple ways we could fix it is actually by splitting these edges here from all the way to here. Well, we don't want to start there because that'll be probably just as we go on the inside because that can be kind of a different feel. And then what I can do is just shift and click here and go cut. And I'll do another one here. Let's have a look where that is. Where are you? Okay, so we'll just do that one too. We could go deeper, but like that's just a separate piece. But if we cut those, what you'll see is if I select the two shells and I go optimize, you'll see that it'll split apart. And if I keep going optimize, 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 what we should get happening is less distortion. So you'll see we got rid of a little bit of that red. There's still some red here. If we really wanted to get rid of that, we could split this. I'm not going to because the handle needs to be pretty straightforward. Oh, yeah, Pramod, sorry I missed last week. I was at my house and I was trying to get it going, and then it was just such a pain in the butt. The upload rate at my parents' house is less than 1 megabyte. I think 1 megabyte per second or something like that. It's whatever the stream is. Like this here, we're at 7 up, and I think the stream is at 3.5. But back at home, it's 1. So it's really not, it's very awful. I couldn't even really get anything working. So anyways, thanks. I'm sorry I missed a show. I'll try not to do that in the future. Okay, so you can see I clipped it one more time, and that's even made this a lot better. We've loosened up a lot, and we've got rid of most of the red, and now we're just dealing with some blue. So that means we've got some very nominal distortions on the actual mesh itself. If we turn this off, we can see that. So now what I'm going to do is just line everything up. I think everything is essentially UV mapped. Now these inside pieces here, I might just sort of butt them together depending. Actually, I might not be able to because they're facing such a weird angle, but I'm going to put them over here. I could technically stitch them to one of these pieces just so that I know roughly where it is. I might do that. It really depends. But the main thing I do now is we still have other pieces that we have to UV map. So I'm going to go do those really quickly. This process used to take me forever until I discovered kind of the system I'm doing right now. It used to just be a tremendously arduous affair. And now I feel like I've got it down a little bit better. So these are just cylinders. So I thought they would be more involved in this. I might actually even delete some of their faces in between. Actually, you know what I'll do first is I'm going to merge all these objects together so that they're one object. If we go here, I think I can go combine. I'm just holding shift and right clicking. And I'm going to go combine. Where's combine? Where are you? There we are. Okay. And then I'll delete history because I know it creates a transform history. You'll get like extra objects in there, but I'm going to combine these, and then I'm going to split away some of these extra faces that I don't feel like we really need. There we go. It's just more stuff we have to worry about. Okay, and so essentially with this, I think what I can do is I can just use the bonus tool one that we were doing. If you just go into the bonus tool, I'll show you one last time, and then I'll just use my button. UV editing, and then we'll go here to auto unwrap UVs tool, and we'll just go enter tool. We can leave it open. Okay, I'm not getting any errors, which is good. And so I know where I want my seams. Well, it's pretty obvious, I guess. I'm just going to double click all the top edge loops here, and I'll go add a border, and then all the bottom ones. You don't have to do the open edges at these either end because they'll be automatically edged. They'll be automatically cut, of course. Add borders. And now the only thing we want to do is just pick on which side we want to split the cylinder on. Which it could be one side, it could be two sides. It doesn't really matter. Oh, weird. They're not even the same. Oh, these are like, oh, I see what's happened here. Okay, so, this makes things a little trickier. Because I've got to cut all these and then I have to put those back together again, which is kind of annoying. Unless I just manually select each one of these, which is also kind of annoying. It doesn't really matter where the seam split is. I guess one way I could do this is get out of perspective mode and go to one of these guys here. And then we'll just go F. I can't see anything. Oh, I don't want to be in top. I want to be in this one. And let's just go. Oh, I might not be able to do this properly. Maybe. Okay, so here, maybe we can just do, that's not going to work either. This is kind of annoying. Sorry, guys. It's annoying. UV mapping can be annoying. I'm just going to double click this for now and I'll stitch that edge back together later. So on each one of these, just to do it fast, I'm just going to pick any edge and just double click it. It's essentially just going to split the side of the screw thing in half. So we'll just add a border. Okay, and then we'll go continue. Let's see what kind of mess we get. Done. Where'd it go? Okay, so one of those guys didn't disconnect properly. That's okay. And you can see how this like edge, cutting this edge off kind of made things do some stupid stuff. So we got to fix all this. It's fine. So we'll just go here. I'll double click this edge. Oh no. It's so annoying. Which one is that? Which one are you? Where are you? There you are. It's one somebody I forgot to do properly. So we can we'll just do this edge, okay? And then I'm just going to go, we'll just cut it. I'm right clicking and holding. So that should cut that one off and probably fix the whole mess again. So I can select everything if I want to and just go unfold again, and it should fix whatever the thing is. You'll notice nothing's scaled properly, which is Kind of an annoying thing I find with UV maps is they don't typically match the right world scale, but that's okay. We're going to fix that in a bit here. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch these edges back together on these guys here. So I'll just select them like that, and then I'll just go so. I'll do that for these ones too. It's just the leftovers from when I was trying to get the edge off. Unfortunately, you can't just double click, which is kind of annoying. I'm sure there's a lot of people that know other and possibly better ways to do this. I'm not an expert by any means on UV mapping. I just do what I can do to get by. Okay. So next week we'll do the Nat Geo overview thing. Okay. So anyone who's interested in that, just come back to next week's stream and it'll be more interesting. I promise. Well, I don't promise, but I it should be. All right. So let's just try. I'll do an optimize one more time. Okay. Just make sure everything's roughly where it needs to be. And now what I can do, well, I'm not going to worry about the scale for now because I'm going to do I'm going to relay out everybody, and I want to lay them out all together when they're grouped together. I think there's probably a better way to do this. I don't know how to do it, but if I go down here and I go to arrange and layout and I go layout, what should happen is each of these pieces should become a uniform scale because I click them all together. So you're going to get kind of a mess, but at least what you have now is everybody's sitting in the same UV scale, and so that you know all of the pieces are roughly the right size, or they should be exactly the right size compared to one another. And then now it's just a matter of laying your UVs out in a way that makes sense to you. If you're planning on painting your UVs manually in something like Photoshop, you want to lay them out so they're easy to read. But if you're not, then you can just lay them out however you like. But so for me, for instance, I would just make sure that there was a correlation between these two shapes. Now there's some good transform tools over here. You just use these. Usually these are just off to the side. You could go like this, I believe. Oh no, that gets rid of my thing. Okay. If I wanted to, I could move that window over here, I guess, and I'd be closer to my tools, but I really don't use them too much. So that's sort of the continued edge of the blade. Okay, and then we have the handle. This is one side. So I think okay, so that will be, you should be able to go bop, bop. Okay, so we'll just keep this the bottom back like that. And it's nice. I'm just going to put this on one big 4K tile because the knife never really gets super close to the camera. Well, it is super close to the camera, but it doesn't completely fill the frame. So if I scale this up all together, I should be able to get something big enough that I don't need two texture maps. I could just use one, hopefully. Okay, and these are all the heads of our screws. Maybe let's pick all one side and all the other so that we just make sure that we're keeping things, I don't know, easy enough to read. So are we on front or on back? We're on doing backs. That's a back one. It's not a back one. That's a back one. That's probably not. Oh, it is too. Okay. Should be all those back ones. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll put those together. Okay, and then we will grab these ones. It's not the most intuitive thing in the world. It's pretty straightforward. This stuff used to take me forever. I used to think like UV mapping was wizard's work until I found like the bonus tool makes a huge difference. Without it, it's not that cool. It's really hard. I used to do this stuff like with auto unwrap and then manually stitch everything back together, which is very time consuming. But this is a far better workflow. It tends to work for almost everything I do. I used to like try to find expensive UV programs and all sorts of stuff, and this method has worked well so far. Okay, I don't really care where this is, but let's just grab these really quick, and maybe I can just stitch them. If we go select edge, we should be able to find which edge that thing is stuck to, and then we'll just go down here, and we can go stitch together. Now, if we go stitch together, there's two ways you can do it. You can have B to A, which will force the second piece selected, I guess. But you just have to change it A to B or B to A, and that will sort of flip it the way you want. What's going on? Hey, you just found the. Oh, thanks. To Dualu Mofaka. That's a great name. Thanks for sending your appreciation. That's very, very kind of you. Oh, okay. So Pramod, the story of Harry Hill. Yeah, it should get less confusing um, as I actually fix some of the visuals. I'm hoping, like maybe it's just confusing because it's poorly written, and I'm okay with it being a bit confusing, definitely. But this main story, it's kind of a fairy tale. It's it's a fairy tale based on a real story. My grandmother grew up in the prairies with a lot more kids than there in the show. There was 5 kids, I think, and her father was a rodeo star, and her mother was stayed at home, but they had like a little plot of land and stuff, and they were trying to raise their family on it. They were very, very poor, and it's based in northern Alberta. And the mother suffered extreme depression, and I believe she was an alcoholic, and she abandoned the children, and the father was gone as being a rodeo star and was also very unavailable to the children. So my grandmother tried to take care of the kids all by herself for I think for a while. I'm not sure if it was a year or over a year or what, but essentially what ended up happening is the social services, the equivalent, like they're kind of like the government organization that watches for how families are taking care of their children, basically found out that my grandmother was trying to take care of her siblings all by herself, and they took all her siblings away from her, and then she never saw them again. And so she finally met a couple of them again. Well, she never saw a lot of them. A couple of them she met again when she was 50, and then she died shortly after meeting them. So it's kind of a story about broken families, families torn apart by depression or by substance abuse, and kind of in the northern prairies, I guess. It sort of looks at that. I'm not trying to make any big judgments or anything like that, but it's kind of just about death and family and kind of hard lives, and also in my family no one ever talked about it. So we didn't know anything about this for a long time. So there's also a lot about, they were ashamed of their childhood. My grandmother was, and so they never talked about it. And so part of it too is like having a character that revisits bad memories and finally deals with them or faces them in some way, and then experiences a level of peace or freedom because of finally acknowledging those memories and facing them. So I guess it's something like that. It's very abstract. It's an art film. It's not really meant to be a straightforward narrative. It's kind of meant to be a film that's more about the feeling than it is so much about the specifics of a story. Yeah, the end character. That's actually a woman. I know it doesn't look really much like a woman in those things, but essentially it's a grandmother. The grandmother has gone back to where she grew up, or where her family was last together, and she found her old home. And when she goes back, she starts remembering what happened, but she remembers it in a very distorted way. Like all the characters have been replaced by animals, so it was sort of like the idea of how a child might remember a really tragic thing, and maybe they edit their memory or try to make it seem like something less tragic by giving it this fairy tale angle. It is about storytelling, and it's about kind of you know how the memory works, even, and how our memories change the experience that we remember is different based on how we feel. Just a lot of stuff like that. So the old person in the end is the same person that the little girl who's making dolls and stuff like that. It's the same person. The girl who's outside and the food is burning and she runs in to take the pot off. It's mostly the drawings aren't clear, like, because you would see the same consistent character all the way through, so that would probably help, I would assume. But anyways, that's the same person. The old lady and the main girl who's doing the cooking and trying to look after the kids and doing the hunting. That's the same person. They just don't. They're kind of stumbling upon these memories that they had of years and years ago, and this is the first time them really remembering fully what happened. But if you have ideas about how it could be made clearer or questions about it, you can, yeah, just ask me. And I'm still working on, the animatic is fairly finalized in some ways, but ultimately, the character designs are sort of finished, but the animatic's always open to revision along with the edit. And even, we're looking at adding a couple of shots here and there to help clarify the story and make things stronger. So it's I wouldn't say the animatic's like the actual final film in I wouldn't say it's the final film in structure specifically, but it's definitely the general idea. Most probably about 80% of those shots will be in the film. But that being said, 20% of the film or more is likely to change in some way or the other as we go through production and find problems with the story and kind of clean, revise. It's like a constant process. It's never finished. Yeah, I'm still working with After Effects. I am still working with it all the time. I did a post-mortem on Giant Bear a few weeks ago, and that was 90% After Effects, I'd say. The only stuff that wasn't After Effects was the main characters. I just don't do a lot of key character animation in After Effects right now because one, it's really hard to find people that work with After Effects puppets. And for Giant Bear, we had to hire out a lot of the animation. And two, After Effects is a little bit slow when it comes to animation, so it can be very, very hard to do revisions. But I still use it. Like the Let There Be Light documentary, which I just did. I did I guess it's probably 2 years ago now, maybe, or almost 3. That was all After Effects. There was very little 3D in that. So I still use it all the time. I use it for any kind of like background characters and everything. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I will. Sorry. I have a wonderful cold. I will find that link for you again. Just bear with me for 1 second and I will look it up. All right. Okay, I think I found the folder right here. So, guys, sorry, you're seeing nothing on the screen, but you will in a moment. Okay, I'm going to grab that link for you. There you are. Okay. There you go. Oh, you did, Sam. Do you ever, if you ever want to, I don't know, I'm still rigging in After Effects. I just did these, empty rigs and stuff. I'd be interested to see your work. If you want to post some of it or share it or pass it along, that'd be awesome. Just a last thought. I think I could probably merge this whole object together as one object since they're all going to have the same material. I'm just going to save. But yeah, I use After Effects all the time. I'm using it on Harry Hill, and I'm still I'm still doing it. I'm not doing the character animation in there, and a lot of the background pieces. I'm experimenting to do the background pieces using Maya, but we worked on this new plugin that generates a mesh for you. I wish I could show you guys, but it's not working on this computer. It's working on all the other ones, but there's a conflict with one of my existing plugins in Maya with the plugin that we did for Photoshop that's causing a corruption. But what it does is it allows you to draw a mesh using your vector curves, and it will generate that mesh in Maya essentially for you. And then you don't have to model anything, and then you can just start sculpting. Okay, so I'm going to just combine this mesh together just to keep things simple, I think. So I'm just going to go to the toolbox. You can do this by shift-clicking and just go combine if you want. And especially since I haven't named any of the pieces yet or anything, and I'm just going to edit, delete all by type history. I'm also going to freeze the transforms, make sure everything's clean here. It's very large. I'm not sure if that matters. And I'll just call this knife. We'll call it snow knife. And maybe I'll say geo. So now I have to paint this. I have to bring it into something like 3D Code. I could just send it over to Mudbox, but I think 3D Code's a better program for painting. So I'm going to just save this as an OBJ, I guess, because I think there is a tool for 3D Code. I wonder if I have it, a shelf for 3D Code. I don't at the moment, but there is one that'll send stuff to it. But all I have to do is I can just go export. We'll just click on this. Go file, export. I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking I could break it. I might break up this into materials really quickly. Just bear with me for 1 second. I feel like the screws are going to be a bit of a pain in the butt if I don't have them as separate objects now that I think about it. It's going to be annoying. Sorry, I'm going to separate this really quick. I'm an annoying person. Okay, and these ones, we're going to glue all these guys back together so they're all one piece. We'll call combine, and we'll call them geo, I guess, like, what will we call them? They're like the nails or something. Okay, let's edit. You see those little nodes that show up? Those are like from the history. Okay, so this will be called geo handle. I guess I should have just done this right in the beginning. Geo knife. Okay. I'm cool with them all being the same material, I think, since we have the objects separated out. I'll probably take them out of the group because sometimes groups mess up OBJ files. Okay. I'm just going to say this is a new file. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, Sam, you might the link might not come through because YouTube won't let you send a full link, but you can send it to my email or just as a message. Or I think there might be a way you can probably do it in a clever text way. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's take this, and I'm going to select all this. File. Oh, wait. Sorry, this is annoying. Before we export this, I'm going to duplicate this geometry really quick. And I'm going to make a high-res version. This one's going to be high-res. So I'm going to take all of these. I'm just going to smooth them one time. You can do it in 3D Coat too, but I'm just going to do it here. Smooth. It's just more predictable. Oops. Take all these guys and we'll hide them away. I'm only smoothing it because it'll make it easier to paint the UVs. And it behaves the exact same way that you would smooth things in Maya with just pressing the 3 button. Okay. That's probably good enough. All right, file. We'll go export selection, and we'll just do an OBJ file. All right, because that's what 3D Coat likes. Do groups, materials, I guess. It's fine. Okay, and then knife, we'll just put it in here. Knife, snow knife. And I just sometimes put OBJ in the name just in case. It just makes it easier to know what it's for. Okay, and then we'll just pop into 3D Coat, and hopefully everything works. Okay, so we're going to do Paint UV Mapped Mesh. We'll load one in. And we're going to go to the Waldorf Work Drive Projects. Giant Bear, Project Files, 3D, Models. That's not the right one. I think I have to go to the Maya. Giant Bear Maya, Scenes, Models, Knife. There it is. Open. Hopefully everything comes in. That's fine. No subdivision. That's fine. Keep UV. Yep. We're going to make the texture 4096. Should be big enough. Treat materials as separate textures. Okay, that's good. We only have one material anyway. Actually, we won't do that. We'll just go like this, 4096. Okay. And we'll just call this, well, that's fine. Let's bring it in and see what happens. Cool. Thank you for sending this. So AE Scripts authors. You're like an author. Oh, why isn't this working? Okay. Okay, sorry. I didn't know they called you guys. Called it an author when you were. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull this really quick and let's see if we can get it. escripts.com/ and then I'm just gonna copy this. I'll copy your link right here. Oh, cool. You made these. Oh, wicked. This is amazing. Cool. I want to get this. I'm actually probably going to use these. Man, that's great. Wow, good job. You guys should check this out. For those of you who are into After Effects rigging, these look very, very helpful. I'm imagining this multi-parent rigging is sort of like an expression-based parenting system. Cool. Thanks for sharing this. This is awesome. I'm definitely going to follow. I will follow you. I will bookmark your page. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I can't wait to try those. That's amazing. Actually, let's just take a look really quickly. Do you have videos for these? That's cool. How are you doing with your sales? Do you find that you're making enough sales? Like, is it relatively lucrative for you? These are awesome. That looks great. That's amazing. Really nice work. I'm really impressed. Multi-parent rigging. This stuff's always such a pain in the butt. That's great. So you've got sort of multiple drivers for a single character. That's really cool. Really nice work. Really nice work. Really impressive. Definitely will be using some of these. This is so perfect. It's really cool because this is some of the stuff I was wanted to try to do, but it takes a lot of work to put these together. I'm not sure how long it took you, but putting the developing the scripts and then getting the packaging it all up and then doing your tutorials, it's just a lot of work. So I'm really glad to see that you're doing that. That's amazing. Really impressive. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so what we have here is get out of there. Stop it. Here are all our objects. I don't know if you guys use 3D Coat. That's good to know. That's good to know that you can kind of get by on it. Okay, so here is everything. So I guess I have to pull up a reference really quick because there is an image I'm supposed to make it look sort of like. So I'm going to pull up a reference. If you guys just bear with me for 1 second. It's called a Pana knife. I believe the actual knife we're referencing is in here somewhere. Now what this knife is used for is for cutting through snow, and so that you can actually build igloos. We may try snow knife because I know there was a reference that the director liked specifically. It would just happen to be like one of the first things that came up. Oh, it's like it's essentially based off of this, I believe, but we made it longer because this isn't quite as long as a Pana knife, and it's missing the bump at the end here. But I think this is essentially the model. It's bone. It's either bone or antler. So we kind of know what it's made out of. And then the rest of it is, I guess it's metal. So that makes, originally we were just doing the story to make it really unclear when it was based in, but because the blade is metal, it has to make it sometime after the Inuit came in contact with the Europeans or the Vikings. It's possible the Vikings may have introduced some things to the Inuit people. Thanks for sharing those, Sam. It's really cool. I will pimp those out and use them. That's amazing. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to start painting this. Now, I don't have many brushes here, So we might have to make a couple of brushes. I didn't actually make, this is a new install of 3D Coat. But what I love about 3D Coat again is look how fast and responsive it is. Very rare to find a 3D program that 3D painting program that is so fast and responsive, especially over multiple objects. It's really good when it comes to that, and that's one of the main reasons I use it so much. So we need to make a couple of brushes. So what I can do is I can just import brushes that I already have. If I go to stencils, I can just add a bunch here. I believe it's under stencils, is it? No, the stencils is for painting. Sorry. I want, sorry, I'm a little disorganized on, I had to reinstall 3D Code on this program. It's stencils, it's not stencils, it is what? Alphas, there they are. So I need to bring in some alphas. Oh, I have some here. Great, we have some. I've already brought a bunch in. So they're not going to look good initially. We've got to actually give them some settings and stuff. I think the main one I want is this one. This is a pretty good one for painting things. So let's just set this brush up really quick. Okay. So to actually modify the brushes, let's just put these paint objects here in the, here. And surface materials we'll put in here too. Really, I should have like a different setup, but I don't need Voxtree for this version. And layers, we will be using layers. Right now we're at layer 1. Okay, so the thing I want to do is I just want to set this brush up. So here's our brush settings. I want to use the rotation. I kind of want it to follow. So let's make the, first off, I'm going to hit E, and I'm going to make sure it's in this mode so it's like gets thinner and fatter depending on pressure. Okay, and then I do want it to follow the use spacing. Yeah, I guess, what if it happens if we don't use spacing? Yeah, we're going to use spacing. And then I want it to follow, rotate along stroke. That's the other thing I want. So that means it'll sort of go with the stroke, which is helpful. And then we can change the rotation. So if I want the stroke, right now it's following at the side like that. So maybe I'll rotate it a bit. Let's see this way. Okay, that's a bit better. A little too far. Nope. Farther. There we go. Okay, that's more what I want, I think. We'll see. And then I'm probably going to bring the less space between it. The less spacing, obviously, well, the slower the brush is going to be. So remember that. Also, I want to do I could do some randoms. That will make it less predictable, but that might also make it look less brushy. So let's, radius variation. There we go. I think there's a minimum zero pressure radius we can put to 0, like really small. I don't find that actually works. I find like 3D Code is very sensitive in its pressure. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to go soon. I'm gonna try to stream again this afternoon because I started so late, but I have to go and I have a meeting. But anyways, let's get this sorted out. We want opacity. Why is the opacity? Let's press E. Why is our opacity so? Let's do this one. There we go. There. Now we have something a little more what we want. A little opacity variation. I'm going to do a slight jitter of the rotation. Radius variation, do we want any of that? I think that's just like randomizes the radius. You see how the edge is a little more unpredictable? It's just depending on the pressure. So I don't mind a little radius variation. It kind of makes the line a little less predictable. Rotation amount. You can do this. Like if you do the mouse thing, it means it's just going to always do it a certain rotation random. I need to really, I think this brush needs to be way closer together. Might be a slow brush after this. See how it slows down because the spacing is very critical in how fast a brush is. I don't know if this alpha is going to work for us. Let's do a random flip Y, see what that does. Nope. Jitter position, what does that do? Oh, that gives us that. So that makes it kind of crazy. It's cool. It's cool if it's like a small pen stroke. Then you get like a neat, like inconsistent line. We're not gonna do that. Jitter opacity. We might do maybe do that a little bit. That looks better. It definitely looks better as a thin line. I wonder actually if I got rid of the follow, rotate along stroke, it might actually not look so bad when we go at different angles. We probably should do this. Now, I don't know if there's like a setting to do that's the equivalent of flow, but that's pretty good. It's working pretty nice. Very fast. I'm not sure if there's something about flow, honestly. I don't really know. I guess we can turn down this. So if you right click and you press up and down, that's essentially the opacity, or not the opacity, this is how much it will distort a surface. And if you pull right and left, that scales the brush up. I really like that feature in this program. Okay, well, that's one kind of brush. It's like a pretty hard, see how big we can get with it without it slowing down too much. See, it's pretty fast. So I'm gonna have to make like a kind of a bone color and texture on this thing. We can use procedural textures as well, so we don't want to like forget that that's an option. So this is a pretty hard, wide brush. I'm going to save this as a preset. So we'll here, add a preset, and we're just going to call this, okay, that's fine. Wide, smooth. And then we can just find some more. Like I need another alpha, like a, I need like a big one, like something a little more crazy looking, something I can use for texture. Let's try. This is a splattery brush. Let's go to the brush. This one we could probably do random XY. Still pretty like I guess this is sort of like our little scumble, but I do still find that I'm getting a lot of repetition on the edges. So I may need to space it out a little bit more. Okay, it's a little better. And make sure that our radius, jitter opacity, we can do a little bit. Still really quite repetitive. Probably have to play with this. So I have a meeting in like 1 minute, so I'm going to have to go, but I'm going to try to come back here. Rotate along stroke. Let's try that. That's a little better, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this brush. I might need a better alpha. I don't like it. Let's try this one. Does it reset when I do change an alpha? Yes, it does. That's kind of annoying. This is a good pen tip brush right here, but I don't want that. I want something that's got a, like really good coverage. I'll find something and I'll get it all set up. That's like a splattery brush. Well, depth variation is more for if you're actually trying to sculpt with this thing. That's a pretty cool brush. Again, it's really repetitive still. Random, random. That helps a little bit. It's a pretty good splattery brush. Find when we go little, there's something happening where it just repeats a lot in these little, see these bouts of it just repeating a lot over and over again. It's fade on edge mean? Oh, that's when you're like going to the edge of the geometry. Yeah, I notice if I pull it hard, it kind of, brush rotation. That shouldn't matter. Okay, I'm going to have to play with this stuff. I'll be back in a little bit, guys. Sorry for the short stream. I didn't even paint anything. I still am trying to set up my brushes and figure things out. Like some of these brushes right now are pretty horrible. Like that's awful. Why is that happening? That looks disgusting. Why would it go so long? I think I have to increase the rotation amplitude's really high, but it's just weird. Like it's not quite fast enough. It's like it's almost like based on the length of the stroke because there seems to be a rate attached to it, which is interesting. Okay. All right, guys. I'll be back a little bit later and we'll keep painting this thing if anyone cares, really. But thank you for hanging out. I'll talk to you guys in a bit.